things will work out, but you got to be in position first. I hope that you suffer, and I hope that you suffer well. All right, so what do I mean by that? See, I've been having a lot of these thoughts lately about how important it was to suffer earlier on in life, and just people that kind of grew up in that suffering, right? Not everything was all super peachy, had a lot of family problems, just the environment that I grew up in, you know, had a roof over my head, but just wasn't the best place, right? And then just having to go through a lot of like different traumas and stuff like that at a younger age versus experiencing that stuff later on in life. See, I'm really starting to believe that those who experience these things earlier in life will go just a lot farther than those that experience these things later on in life. And I believe that that's true because I'm noticing a lot on how people just crash out, right? Just people just crashing out because they don't know how to handle certain stressors or certain life events that are just not normally occur, right? I mean, as you're on your path to righteousness and on your path to trying to make something out of yourself and on your path to personal development and everything, you're gonna come across a lot of obstacles and road bumps and just everything, right? It's never just straight path there and it's just super easy and, you know, you get to take the scenic route or whatever. A lot of times taking those routes are very dangerous. There's a lot of turmoil on those routes, but through those, you know, through all that turmoil, that's where all the self-development happens. See, like experiencing a lot of stress and a lot of just heartaches, death, and just being in a terrible environment growing up. I used to think that kind of stuff, that I just wouldn't amount to anything because I just couldn't see the value a lot of times in life because I had just thought that life was just always about suffering. And some of the teachings that I really liked a lot in Buddhism is that life is suffering. And I firmly believe that life is suffering, right? And if you don't know how to handle that suffering, you know, some people, they just don't make it. They don't make it, they crash out, and they slip into all the vices, you know, hanging out with just toxic people, getting in relationships with toxic women, getting into like hardcore drugs that aren't good for you, drinking a lot, you know, doing too much, just things that aren't productive for you, that aren't going to actually help you improve, right? So my biggest thing is trying to help people to not crash out, even though I actually believe that I believe that you need to come to like a certain level of just uncertainty and feeling like things aren't going to work out. So in a sense, I do believe that you need to crash out a bit, but you don't want to give up. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Even if you do crash out, don't give up, right? Because, see, before when I just couldn't really see the light, I just had this belief that this couldn't be all that life is, right? There has to be something more. And I started to believe that there was something more when, you know, I started watching certain shows, like superheroes that I liked, or looking up to different idols that I looked up to, playing certain video games where people made a better life out of themselves, even though they grew up in the terrible conditions. So, you know, it's hard to see that stuff when you're in the thick of it, right? But, you know, we're just hopping into these times, right, where there's a lot of economic uncertainty. There's a lot of rapid changes happening with AI and robotics that a lot of people aren't ready for. And, you know, there's just a lot of rapid changes happening. And so many people are just so caught up in their own, they're so wrapped up in their own headspace that they can't actually see the other things that's going on, and they're missing out on all these opportunities, right? So I'm noticing a lot how one of my friends I was talking to, one of my really good friends, we were talking about why certain people are the way that they are, right? So, yes, you know, people can become products of their environment, but they don't have to be. But more so, I was noticing a lot how once people hit like a certain threshold, or like a certain age at least, there's just almost no going back, right? Like, I'm noticing a lot how people, in particularly like over 35 and up, that's just kind of like where it really starts. Like, it does start, I'm noticing a lot in, you know, my 30s that, man, people, once they start that spiral, they just start crashing out, right? And then they don't want to make any changes to improve their life. They just want to stick to just one thing that they're so stuck on, when it's just holding them back and they're not able to improve because, you know, they're so wrapped up in just their own headspace and they can't really see clearly because, you know, a lot of people are, I get it, you know, a lot of people have to like work a lot of hours, or, you know, people aren't sure how they're going to pay for things or whatever. But, you know, you need to be able to figure out how to get through these things, right? And how do you figure out how to get through these things? Well, if you crash out, you don't give up, right? You need to build a certain level of resiliency in you. And see, a lot of people that grew up in this stuff already, they grew up in that funk, they grew up in the terrible environments and everything. They built that resiliency in order to get through that, right? And so that's all I was doing, like before, when I was all the way up until 18, right? Was building up that resiliency of just, you know, getting through. And I was just in survival mode a lot of the time, right? I was always very envious of others who just had like a lot more, I was pretty envious of different people's like family dynamics and how well everyone was getting along, and just the things that they had access to, right? I wanted to have access to those things too, because I just never really had that. You know, well, there was a time where things looked like they were pretty good, but my family just ended up just taking a dump, right? They just, anyways, yeah, you know, and it's hard, right? I'm noticing a lot how I used to think that all those negative things that happened to me before, I would always question, like, why me, right? Why does this have to happen? Why can't it just be a little easier? Why can't these things just work out for me, right? And I just couldn't see at the time, but, you know, God had other plans, right? I mean, I had to go through all these negative things and all these things that were trying to break me, but I just became a master of being bent, but I just wouldn't break, right? Because I built that resiliency when I was a lot younger. So when all these problems started to happen as I got older, I mean, yeah, it sucks being in them, but I was able to get through them because I didn't quit, right? But if you quit, you don't get any better at it. Or if you settle, you'll never get any better at it either, and you'll just be mediocre, right? And I didn't want to live a mediocre life anymore. It's tough though. It's not easy, but nothing gets any easier if you So my biggest thing right now is to get people to understand that, one, if you crash out, don't give up. Okay? That's number one. There's nothing wrong with falling, and you got to get back up on your feet, right? No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to pull you out of it, even though everyone always wants someone to pull them out of it, but they're not coming. Because I can guarantee you this, there will be people that will help, but when it really matters most, when God is really testing you, they're not going to send anyone for you. It's just going to be you. So crash out. If you crash out, don't give up. Another one. Create some challenges for yourself. See, I'm noticing a lot of people, they're not challenging themselves. They're just okay with being where they're at. And I mean, I guess that's fine if that's what you want. But if you want to make it, I'm living in America, right? If you want to make it over here, you're going to need to be able to do multiple things. And you're going to need to have like different skills and everything. So you need to have challenges to challenge yourself to become, better, and to set yourself up for success and provide other opportunities for you, right? And yeah, mainly just those two things, right? Don't crash out, or if you crash out, just don't give up. And, create some challenges for yourself so that way you can build some resiliency and you can get through all these hard times, because a lot of people aren't ready for the amount of pain that's going to be coming through in the economy and just in life in general, right? Things are going to get a lot easier due to AI and robotics, but things are going to get a lot harder because a lot of opportunities aren't going to be there anymore like they were before. Well, there will be opportunities, but for those who adapt and for those who are, challenging themselves and trying to learn different skills and all this other stuff, right? We're going to see a huge shift in things, and I just want you to be better prepared for that. So, my last thing though is that if you really do want to improve yourself and you are serious, ask somebody for help, right? Like if you don't want to ask me, that's fine. But if there's someone else that's in a certain position in life that you want to be in, you need to figure out a way to get around in that circle, or just be surrounded by those types of people, or just find those like-minded people, right? But in order to find those like-minded people first, you need to become of that same entity if you want to be able to find them. Because those types of people aren't going to want to spend time around you if you're not embodying that already yourself. So you need to start embodying these things now, so that way when you do meet those people in the future or whenever it may be, they'll recognize you and they'll want to be around you, because they, y'all are trying to do the same things and you're trying to elevate your life. But you got to show people you're serious, because I'm going to be honest with you. When people are on their path to becoming better and just making something out of themselves, they don't want to hang around people that aren't doing the same thing. That's wasted time. I'm just keeping it 100 with you, right? Those types of people, they'll just be unavailable because they know that they need to spend as much time as they can to focus on becoming better, because they can see this dynamic shift and all these changes that are happening. But a lot of people are just ignoring them because they get so caught up in their own stuff, and they become ignorant, and they don't know how to handle it because they just never had any challenges and they never had that self-development, and they're trying to build this resiliency, but then they're a lot older. They don't have the same type of energy and vigor anymore. It's not good. Thus, they crash out. You can crash out, but don't give up. There is light at the end of the tunnel. You just need to be around, and you need to be walking that path until you reach that light. Okay? So anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. I gotta head back to work. But yeah, I just wanted to get on here real quick and just, spread some more words of wisdom, words of just encouragement and everything. And letting you know that, things will work out, but you gotta be in position first if you want it to work out. All right? Anyway, stay healthy, stay blessed. Y'all have a good one.